his responsibility. And then bringing political colored people into these positions. That's why when they come. But that is not what the law is saying.
Yeah, you see, but again, the problem is if we just use the law and we forget conventions and principles, we create a lot more problems. Let's say a party A came in today, then they left, everybody's been left. So they remain. Let's be honest. Even the ability of ministers and other people to work with people. Remember in this country, we've had a situation where even a vice president, cabinet meetings could not be held because of a certain vice president or because of challenges. So we also need to be realistic in terms of getting peace, getting performance, getting service delivery to the people, getting cooperation. So we just cannot only look at just the law and the letter, but the essence, the spirit of the law is important. Now let me come to...
Actually, you have introduced a very interesting angle to the conversation. But the law, and yourself, I'm sure you can adduce to the fact that in taking a decision, should not be whimsical.
Yeah.
It should not be just based on perception. So how do you, what are the pillars of the trust and the mistrust? For which reason an authority will decide that it cannot work with Mr. or Mr. B or God is perceived to be so. There should be certain ingredients to qualify. Rather than that, people can be swept just with brooms.
I think we are looking at CEOs. That's where the issue is. But this discussion I was talking about the civil service.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make that distinction.
Public institutions.
Yes. I was talking about the public institutions.
Yeah.
So
that's where I'm leaning on, because the point is this.
No, I understand that. If it's other public institution and not a civil service, then the indicators are clear. If so far as you were a secretary general, a former member of parliament, a former minister of party Y, and I come to office, and then you are now the CEO of this Berotan oil, gas, this cocoa board and all that, which are very critical, and you say we should work with you. No, you did not come in. You see, again, that person did not come in because he was a career person. He came in because at a point in time, he or she was brought in the middle. So I agree with Bampo that we need to find a way as a country to create a certain pathway so that we say that from today, and I'm saying, look, we are already doing it, and it's not too good. Why can't we learn from the civil service and say that even now, the good thing I'll say is that the president has only appointed acting. You're asking, where do we start from? Nobody, well, I won't say nobody, I wouldn't know. But majority of them have not been confirmed by the civil service, by the public service commission. Yeah. So if we are using the principle of anonymity, if we are using permanence and all that, then I would crave the indulgence of public service commissioner. When you are assessing, just don't assess whether the person has got masters or PhD. Assess the other dimension. Yes. So when you assess that dimension, then they would have helped. So then this dispensation, there may be a bit of turbulence, but at least this is where we could start this process with. But until that is done, we will have the cycle going. So I will always go back to PSC and say, PSC, can you? Because PSC is a custodian of all our public services, principles, rules, whatever they are. But now, when you come to the civil service, this should not necessarily be a problem. This should not be a problem. Remember the last time I came, I said that the issue of like births and deaths, both the past government and the current government, both appointed the head of births and
registrar.
Registrar. And my point will remain the same. Until that act, which has a lacuna, was created, birth and death was a purely civil service organization. And it's a department. And by the rules, by the conventions, departments are career-based. You don't bring anybody in the middle there. It's a department. Now, if you look at the act, the Births and Deaths Act, you look at it, it looks like they wanted to change it. Which would not have been a problem. But in changing, they did not create any board, any governing council. And by the constitutional provision, every organization must have a governing council. So if there was no governing council, then obviously it meant that the governing council existing before this creation of this body will be the governing council. And that governing council was the Civil Service Council. So if it was a Civil Service Council, then automatically you interpret the Births and Deaths as what? A Civil Service Department. And if it's a Civil Service Department, then the progression should be civil service based. That's the things try to streamline processes. It's try to streamline functions. Even streamline some departments or units in there. That was fine. But it never addressed the issue of a governing council. And as long as the governing council remains the Civil Service Council, then this organization is it's a civil service organization. And if it is a civil service organization, then it is improper. With all due respect to both the former president and the it's improper.
On that score, I disagree with you.
That
Births and Deaths Registry, there's no ambiguity about it. It's a civil service institution. Now, when you look at the Civil Service Regulations, 1960, it lists all the civil service institutions in it. When you look at the Births and Deaths Act 1965 and the 2021, there's no difference because already it has been listed in the regulations of the civil service in 1960 as a civil service institution. Now, this Births and Deaths Act 2020, what it sought to do was to decentralize births and deaths registration. That was the objective. And when you look at, even in this act, when you look at section 8, it's a district office of the registry. It's a department of the district assembly. That's what it's a district office of the registry. It's a department of the district assembly. A department of a assembly is a civil service institution. All departments, assemblies, they are all civil service institutions. So there is no ambiguity about the fact that Births and Deaths is a civil service institution. When you look at the 1960 regulation, it's only those institutions that you have Parliament coming out for an act that is taking them out of the civil service. But so long as Parliament has not come out with any enactment taking you out of the civil service, we are a civil service institution. The other time, someone was asking me, Scholarship Secretariat is a civil service institution because it is listed under the 1960 regulation. That makes it a civil service institution. There's no ambiguity about that.
So Doc, I want to take you back. In fact, we are not going to leave this lacuna or misinterpretation or misconjecturing of issues surrounding the registry of births and deaths as far as the Act 2020 is concerned. But then Nana, in a submission earlier on, touched on the significant role that the Public Commission is supposed to play.
Yeah.
Now, it is to be the authority that appoints these heads of institutions, for lack of better clarity. But then you realize that there's a whole lot of appointment, acting, before they are even appear before the PSC. Don't you think that that is the problem? That it puts political pressure on them to just pass them as they are appointed?
Because we were doing the wrong thing. What the Constitution is saying, that appointment must be in accordance with the advice of the Council. Both holding and acting. That's what the Act says. 1 and 5. Must be in accordance with the advice of the Council in consultation with the Public Service Commissions.
Of the governing body.
of the governing body. That's what it says. It didn't say after. So the appointment letters that have been issued by the presidency that I'm appointing this person to what whilst consultation is had is wrong. That's what the law is saying. The law is saying that president appoint in accordance with the advice, of the governing council. And we are doing the wrong thing. That's why we're having problems. But that's what the Constitution is saying. And these are issues where if you want clarity, then go to court. That's why I'm saying there should be a system in place where some of these issues, within 2 weeks, we get a ruling. And that will set the country moving forward in the right direction. But let's not do things as if there are no rules at all. There are rules and regulations. Whether it's the president, and I agree with Nana when he says the Public Service Commission, because that is their responsibility to ensure that the right things are done. But it seems that's why the commissioners, they are like in the Supreme Court judges, up to 70 court, exactly.
High courts.
To give them that independence, to be able to tell the president, look, this is not according to law. So we are sorry. We had a situation where a it wasn't a High Court judge, told President Mills that, look, my friend, you cannot sack a civil servant. You don't have the authority to sack a civil servant. That was the ruling. He said, Mr. President, President Atta Mills, with all due respect, as president, you don't have the authority to sack a civil servant. And the court overturned the decision. And this is the sort of characters that we need the Public Service Commission. To go to the president, no, Mr. President, yes, but with this, no. And then the decision will move forward.
So, Nana, so what do you perceive to be the effect of these appointments? Because to appoint, you must have the legal basis and authority to make that appointment. And that appointment goes with some conditions of service. Mm-hmm. And those conditions culminates into costs, either on the contingent fund, government funds in general.
Yep.
So if the Constitution that stipulates the process of appointment is jammed, could this be seen as null appointment? And for that matter, the effect of that appointment on the funds of government, of the nation, is a financial abuse of a kind?
Oh, yeah. You see, the point is, everything that we're supposed to do in this country is ordered. We're based on our Constitution. So it's the same Constitution that makes provision for Parliament to go through the past appropriation bill for the president to act so that resources will be made available. It's the same Constitution that makes provision for the way people should be appointed into the various public services of this country. And I agree with Bampo correctly that the power to appoint is vested in the president. But the power to appoint, whether acting or permanent, should always be in consultation with governing councils and public service councils, where the provision so does. So if we want to be very literal in our interpretation, if you not follow the process, then that appointment is null and void. Yeah. If you not follow the new process, the appointment is null and void. So, you see, we've been doing some of the things by convention. And as I say, nobody has this appointment of acting position, nobody has fully tested it to say that, Mr. President, you cannot appoint anybody in acting position until this and this is done. You see, in the civil service, that's what, but we're talking a lot about the public service. And if you're not careful, you will not be dealing with our own. You see, in the civil service, all serious acting appointments will go through OECS and will go through the Civil Service Council. All acting appointments will go through the Civil Service Council before it's even confirmed. There are people who may be calling themselves acting, but they are not really acting. We have assignments. We define the concept carefully. Assignment is just maybe there's a vacancy or there's a small gap for a short time, they'll say, go manage the place or mismanage it. So that's an assignment, that's not an acting appointment. But an acting appointment must go from the head of department or the ministry and go to the head of civil service. And the Civil Service Council will appoint you properly. And in cases, it should go through so that's the civil service case. So all these problems are really with the other public service, whereby convention is being done. I think part of the problem is that, you see, at the time these... let me finish that one before I lose my thought. At the time these acquisitions are done, you realize that most of the councils, governing boards, are not in place. So maybe that's why the thing is as it is.
Well, thank you very much. But then I think we'll go for a short break. But what you have made clear is that the authority to appoint is vested in the president. Yeah. But that should be based or subject to certain principles that have been put in place. Viewers, stay with us. We'll go for a commercial break. And when we come back, I would want to know from Nana why he was shaking his head when Dr. Bampawudu was talking about the fact that the article, section 8 of the Birth and Death Registry Act defines the district office as part of the assembly. Yeah, so we'll come and I'll take it up. So viewers, we'll come back soon.
This is how we do. M-I-M.
What asamu ma umachi ya mane de ne a obi nkase budu nshi lesese ibetene tu ni wari oba bia se oba be wu ba be mama mi be se be bi se wu ye
wala ka chawo kana na hunu ho kali hunu wono anko ne yiri pani na wo ba ko
e ba be aba no ma no
Nye bu stepani atrase ahedin. Oyire no mu mienu yi, obi ni ma ma oba be.
Kita mi se ko sie. Onye ma do. Na me nya yo fo. Na me se mo ba. Ko sie e fi wisa. Oba. Sada no. E fi atat kwatati.
Wo ma ha mama kan chiro so na nanu ani ma akora no hwe.
Ni si amamro phone aye di nipa moja na ya pa enu. Obetima sesa no. So bu eni guso. E sai abro ni be yenti. Wo be so be ye.
Ah hom keto amaba mu dwama no.
Ebeni fosse. Be bia de ni dara se wan fan to. Be feto. Wo ba da ben a wo be sesa amamre. Nimpo amamre na be sesa no wo tiase.
You mentioned that for heads of civil service institutions, generally the heads are not mentioned. But if you look at Section 8 of the PFM Act,
I knew you would come to that.
So I wanted to know whether Controller General is not part of the civil service. It says that the President shall, in accordance with Article 195 of the Constitution, appoint a Controller and Accountant General who shall be the Chief Accounting Officer of the government and the Chief Advisor to the Minister and Government in matters relating to accountancy. If you go forward and look at Section 9, it talks about even the Deputy Controllers and Accountant Generals.
I hope I said generally speaking.
Okay.
So I just wanted to because I was part of the team that did this.
That's fine.
So
then quickly, let me take you back to before I come to Sabanpo.
And there's a reason for controller.
I'm coming.
Controller is historical.
The Registration of Birth and Deaths Act 2020, and I think we should get this clear because the preamble to every act identifies and clarifies the intents and purposes of the act. And if you look at the preamble, it said an act of the births and deaths registry to improve the collection and collation of statistics for national development and for related matters.
Yeah, but go on. You are just reading only part of it.
No, that is all that
established.
And it said that passed by Parliament and assented to by President.
No, there's something.
No, there's.
It is established by this act a birth and death registry referred to in this act as the registry.
Yeah, that's what.
But the point is that the intention and purpose for this is clear. And it's not for the sake of establishing the registrar's position.
No, I never said that.
Okay, I'm just coming to that. And it is not also because the decentralization has been carried on already. If it has, then this is to give it credence, isn't it?
I had not made myself clear, or you decided to. Not I'm saying the decentralization agenda has been on for years, and birth and death has been included.
Okay,
it's included. So you will not just expect an act to just come and establish and say we are just doing basically for decentralization, because I'm saying it's been part of the agenda right from the beginning. Various acts that we dealt with relating to decentralization, Bessene has been involved. Okay. So that's my first point. The reason why I said the intention was to, you see, during all the discussions in relation to this act, I didn't want to bring in. The intention was quite clear to make it an autonomous entity. That was the thing. But somehow, either accidentally, or by God's grace, or the fact that for it continue as a civil service organization. Because the only thing that is missing in this, if you've done the analysis, you compare this with all the other bodies that are not civil service, it's the same format. The only thing that is missing is a governing council. But irrespective, that's not the issue. The issue at stake now is that we agree with him. this organization is now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a civil service organization. The registrar, therefore, is supposed to be a civil service staff, and therefore should be appointed according to civil service processes. For me, that's it. So on that side, I do not agree with Bampo. It's a civil service organization and must be appointed according. That's why the first one, we never processed that one.
So Doc, in view of Article 190, 191, 195 of the Constitution, and the perceived confusion surrounding the registry or the registrar of births and deaths appointment, what can you say about it? What clarity can you give us?
There's no, I don't see any confusion. There's no confusion. The laws are very clear that births and deaths registry is a civil service institution. An Act of Parliament 1960 has been passed. And so far as we are concerned, it has not been reversed. No Act of Parliament has said that births and deaths registry is no longer a civil service. Yes. That must be made clear. Now, when you look at the 1965, after the 1965, births and deaths, the 1965, it's the same thing. It's not about the governance structure. It didn't touch any other. Of course, that had been cleared already in 1960 regulation of the civil service, and it was part of the civil service. So there's no ambiguity about that. Now, when you come to the Constitution, I'm bringing another side of the whole. Like you read, the Act was about the decentralizing of the births and deaths registry. In the same way, in the Constitution, it talked about a civil service, and then an act may be passed to decentralize it, to have the local government service decentralization. When you look at the Constitution, it defines the civil service as both central and decentralized.
And local.
That's the definition of the civil service. Central and decentralized. The same Constitution also says that there shall be a head of civil service. In the Constitution, though, there shall be a head of civil service. So, per the Constitution, that head of service should be both for central and what? Decentralized. Why are we having a head of local government service? That's what the Constitution is saying. One, head of service. And per definition,
the civil service is part of the local government.
Exactly.
Local government is part of the civil service.
Exactly. So these are the issues that we need to look at. And these are the issues that are bringing the confusion. Because the laws are there, because of personal interest or whatever interest, we don't go up into what. That's why the 2020 Act was in the right direction, because it's only talked about decentralization of the registry. So the Local Government Act should also have talked about decentralization of the not service. Because the Constitution is saying there should be one head of service, both for central and decentralized. These are issues we need to look like if we want government or this country to move forward.
So before you come, in view of all these, what is the pronouncement of the Supreme Court on these issues that is confronting us?
Now, the Supreme Court pronouncement was about whether, based upon the limitations that were put on us. Because, like I said, the Constitution said you cannot be a civil servant and be a member of Parliament. Yeah. But the Supreme Court went to rule that no, the moment your political career become manifest, then you must resign from the service. It's also ruled that we cannot be an assembly member and also be a civil servant. No, but the Supreme Court also went to do, there was further declaration that they did. And it was not part of the release that we were seeking for. Remind you, we went to court. We went to court and we had 7-0. 7-3. And this is what the Supreme Court, this is where what we are relying on is that in relation to the instant case, that is case that we are looking at.
Which paragraph are you reading?
And 16, I think last but one paragraph.
Okay, go on.
In relation to the instant case, it is evident that political neutrality is very important and still relevant within the public services. Full stop. Best practices and Ghana's political evolution require that no civil servant or local government servant should owe or be perceived to owe appointment or promotion to partisan activities. So this was a further declaration that the Supreme Court on its own in relation to when it comes to the civil service. And I said appointment or promotion. When are you appointed? When you are coming in. You should not manifest. That's what they say. When you are coming in. And also when you are even inside. You don't get promotion based upon that. So it's like this. The further declaration that the Supreme Court made, aside the other release that we had 73, we didn't get, but this is what the Supreme Court gave us. That Obiandi Milim, if you've manifested your political coloring, don't come to the civil service. It's clear. And that is why the person at Bessendes is a known activist of the NDC. He's a known activist. Now, let's distinguish between what happened when during the MPP time and then this. The MPP, we went to court when the registrar was appointed. Because as at that time, Jubilee House or the president were saying that Bessendes is not a civil service institution. And we were telling them, no, you are wrong. Bessendes is a civil service institution. But later on, they themselves realized, and then they withdrew and wanted to go through the Civil Service Council. So that's what happened during that time. But this one, it is different. This current one is different. They are saying is that the president appoints. It's nobody. It's and what we are saying is that that appointment must be in accordance of the council. So these are the two issues.
So, Nana, with particular reference to the registrar's case and quoting Article 5, how sure are we that the president did not do this appointment in upon the advice or in accordance with the advice of the Public Service Commission? Because at least the PSC was there. It's there and it's still there.
But the rules are quite clear. So the governing council, that's what comes first and foremost. You see, governing councils there are not just there for the sake fun of it. It's imperative that gives it an identity. PSC is at another level. You see, why we governing council first is that to make sure that the person really qualifies to be in the system, in a particular environment, whether civil service or local government service or whatever it is. So that's and it's a job of the governing council to do that. The job of PSC is to assess what the governing council has brought. Indeed, if you look at the thing, it's not what the president has brought. PSC doesn't deal with what the president has brought. It always deals with what the governing council has brought. That is what is happening. That's what the rule says. So there's no way PSC could be consulted in the absence of a governing council. That cannot.
So Nana, see, government business is a continuum kind of process. Yeah. And so whether a government has existed or has come in, the business must go on.
Yeah.
And it appears as if governing council's tenure of office ends with an existing government. I stand to be corrected.
Yes.
So don't you see a vacuum when a new government comes into place? Because the governing council may not be in place, appointment needs to be made. How do we rectify that anomaly?
There's no vacuum anywhere. You see, so let me stick to the success first. That's why it's a career.
Progression.
It's a career business, progression. So if it's a career business and there is a head of civil service and people don't leave because there is a change in government, chief directors don't go automatically, directors don't go, heads of departments don't go automatically. So there's never a gap. This particular gap has been created, as Bampo said, because of the original issue that was with the previous government. If that issue had been resolved and we had a permanent staff appointed as the registrar, we'll not have this problem. Yeah. So this is a problem created by
politicians.
A system which does not maybe effectively deal with what the law expects us to do. So that's why I'm concerned. Because all the organizations, all the departments, even as we speak now, I'm sure before the chief directors have been appointed, they've been posted. It's an ongoing. Heads of department have been been posted, moved around. The head of sales is doing that. There's no need because that is what the law allows him. He has no business. He should not wait for the council. Those are operational things, and that must go on. So this is just a creation of the what we call the two political interferences, if you say, or intrusion into where they are not supposed to be. If we didn't have the previous one, we would not have had this, and then there would not have been any problem.
So you realize that it's like, a precedent has been set where the previous government puts a politically exposed person in that office.
But it was not processed. Let's not forget that. Yes, the council did not process it.
No, I'm just building the point that, and so it's like this government also came into office and felt that it could also follow the same procedure. How can we truncate this? Because at the point TOSA was on strike, and maybe I would want you to take this up. How can we truncate this? Because this appointment, what it means basically is that it undermines permanency, and if permanency is undermined, it means progression has also been executed.
Yeah, how can we truncate this? It's easy. If all stakeholders are playing their role. Now, you have a situation where somebody has been made register of birth and death without consultation from the Civil Service Council. Now, you ask yourself, under what circumstances was he encumbering government funds? This is a question that Auditor General should have questioned. He hasn't got the authority. So how come that person was encumbering government funds? Nobody said anything. So Auditor General should have checked. You don't have authority when it comes to government funds because you've not been properly appointed. So I think if all stakeholders are playing their role, this would not have been an issue at all. Because she was never paid from the system. So how was she getting a salary? And she was signing for expenditure to be incurred in the name of the registry without authority. So this is a question for the Auditor General to answer.
See, the other side of it, I like the fact about the Auditor General, but you see, like every struggle, it is imperative that all parties play their role. Maybe the Auditor General plays his role, the Controller and Counter plays his role, the Public Service Commission also plays his role, and then the Civil Service Council plays his role. So all these parties, like when they went to court, again, it took so long, nothing. So when all parties, we should see it as a joint struggle. If we see it as a joint struggle, then it's really become relatively easier. But if it is left like it's civil service matter or it's closer matter, then we can have this repetition going. At least, as far as the civil service is concerned, we know clearly that when there's a change in government, everybody goes on. There's no issue. The CEO business is quite different because they are all politically exposed persons. So the permanence issue becomes a problem. There you accept PSC to be able to say, look, these are the rules clearly. Your Excellency the President, this person you are bringing in as CEO is a politically exposed person. We think it will create a problem. So the new standard is set and they'll move on. So every party, so that's what organizations are created and they are given some level of security. Public Service Commission has been given a certain level of independence completely.
Wow.
Yes, it is there. The Constitution guarantees its independence totally. As far as its function are concerned, it is completely. It has the same standard. You can talk of the same level as Electoral Commission, NCC, all of them.
So, Doc, do you think the Supreme Court's ruling has come to empower the civil service, or it has merely come to clarify the existing weaknesses within the service? What are your thoughts?
To be honest with you, as CLOSAC, we went to court because we felt we could also be part of partisan activities. Because based upon our training and retraining, we felt we had a capacity, better capacity than those who were doing politics. But what did the Supreme Court say? They said, no. If you want to be in the service, then when it comes to partisan activities, you are limited to the polling station. Only go and vote. So this is the rules that have been given to us. Whether you like it or not, it's for you to decide. If I don't want it, then I get out. So it's not an issue of convention. This is the rule that we've all agreed, we've all, the president swears an oath, that
to uphold the Constitution.
To uphold the Constitution. And that is what we should hold and do. Because if you are swearing an oath to uphold the Constitution, this is what the Constitution is saying, you are doing otherwise, and we are all looking on. Nobody is saying anything. Then we have a problem.
Yeah, so Nana, like, again, I want to know.
Let me just add a bit to what he said.
And others too. Right. I wanted to know whether the Supreme Court's ruling just came to clarify the, what do you call it, confusion around this position, or it has come to empower the civil service or this neutrality business.
One, they do not go to court for empowerment.
Okay.
They do not go to court for clarity of anything, because it's quite clear that at that time, the civil service, I think they were looking at it more from a perspective that it was discriminatory.
Yeah.
It was discriminatory. So let's be clear about the question. It was more of discrimination. Good. Now, what did the decision? The decision affirmed the established principles for civil service. And I said at times I disagree with him. That's why when they were going to the court, I remember joking. I said, "Charlie, you will not win." I remember I said that because I disagree. I thought if you want to be in civil service, remain there. You want to go and do politics, go and be a politician. So when they had a 7-0, which he always says it's victory, but I always say that they lost because what they really wanted, they did not get. But that's on the lighter side. but it affirmed this critical path that you cannot. So if we cannot go and do politics while we are in the civil service, then the same way, the issue of political intrusion, apart from what is necessary for us to do our work, should not be also countenanced. I mean, that clarity should be there. And to a large extent, a lot of that, I mean, we go through a process to a point. People may have issues about chief directors being public servants coming, but that's what the law. But at least in the processing, it's a work of the civil service, head of service, and the council, then goes to PSC. As for people trying to get in, and that's expected. But the standards have been clear. You go through the rigorous process, and it is our recruitment is the same. It's the same. So my point and my belief is that civil, if we want to use the word empowerment, fine. We can use the word empowerment in the sense that the Supreme Court, by affirming what is established, has clarified things. And by that clarification, it's made sure that we do our things properly to safeguard the anonymity business, to make sure that the civil service is permanent, to also make sure that we are neutral, and the focus should be on service delivery, serving every government as they come. We should not be looking at serving whether, and this is the bit, it's good Bambo is here. You see, we tend to make a lot of noise about the politician interfering, coming to it, which is true in some cases. It could be annoying. But I think at times our own people also are part of the problem. A new minister comes, he doesn't know anybody. Then Bampo goes and says to the minister, this guy is an NDC member, he's done this, he's done. So even before the minister comes to the office, he has a tag on surface. So that is also another side of the neutrality that they should look at.
I agree with you, but I believe as a leader, you should know this thing will be there. But then I'll call for a short commercial break. Because when we come back, I wanted to know how we can truncate this political intrusion. And if you are not able to do that, what would we perceive as its impact on morale of the civil servant and on general civil service in general? So if we stay tuned, we shall be back in the not too soon a time. We'll be back soon. Thank you for watching this movie.
Hi, music lovers. We are the Clocksack Band.
So get ready for an unforgettable music experience on our upcoming show, Happy Hour with the Clocksack Band.
We are bringing you a night filled with electrifying tunes, good vibes, and a whole lot of fun.
Whether it's singing along, dancing, or just soaking in the atmosphere, we have something for everyone. Expect surprise performances, exclusive behind-the-scenes stories, and a chance to connect.
Don't miss out. So tell a friend to tell.
And join us for Happy Hour.
Get ready to rock with us. Happy Hour with the Clocksack Band.
Sing. I don't wanna wait.
Our cherished viewers, you are welcome back to Clock TV, where we are promoting the researching of the civil service. Today we are discussing the reality or myth of neutrality, anonymity, and permanence in the civil service. Like I've already introduced to you, my distinguished guests are made up of Nana Kwesi Ajekum Dwamena, the immediate past head of the civil service, as well as Dr. Mampoado, who is the executive secretary of Clocksack. You are welcome back.
Thank you.
And Doc, I wanted to find out from you what you perceive could be the impact of this political intrusion. If you are unable to truncate it, what impact would it have on the civil service as a whole, and more especially on the morale of the civil service staff?
You know, of course, it's going to truncate career progression. It's going to bring morale down. Now, if we enter the service and it takes me about 20-25 years to be in a department, and then my colleague who goes the political line, and then he comes to be my head. He's been into politics. Then morale is going to go down. People are not going to give their best. Motivation, zero. So eventually, who is going to suffer is Mother Ghana, because service delivery will be zero. I'm not putting my best. And then it will be more of my own personal interest. And then what will lead to corruption? Because I know that in the next 4 years, when a government will come and then my position will be taken away from me. So I make sure that within that period, I take as much as I can take. So this will be the consequences, which we all know will not augur well for our country. That's why we are in this fight. We are in this fight not because people should not look at this thing as a fight of CLOSAG. It should be a fight for everybody. If you love Ghana and you want the development of Ghana, please don't sit aside. Don't say it's CLOSAG problem. It's all of us our problem. Because the development of our country.
So Nana, do you also think, or would somebody who holds this opinion be right to say that the consequence of political intrusion also could lead to brain drain? Because when you don't see future in your progression, and you don't see the permanence, then Charlie, can I just pick my bag and baggage and Charlie go look for greener pasture somewhere else?
Thank you. Let me make the point that I agree Bambo completely about the impact on service delivery, heightening corruption and stuff like that. The statistics do not show that really as an issue, as people living because of the political the statistics do not support that. For the 9 years plus, I don't think the statistics really has to do with conditions, more of conditions of service and the lack of parity. And I'm hoping that closest call for the implementation of the agreed conditions of service will be fully implemented. So for me, that's the key thing. That's not. I don't believe that it leads to people leaving their positions in that. But you see, political intrusion, it's relatively. If people would have doubts about that, they should look at the non-civil service environment. They should see the level of confusion that takes place amongst all the CEOs, the deputy CEOs. Look at the confusion there. Look at the lack of succession planning. Look at the level of, even the performance levels and all those places. As you compare with the civil, even now, when in the midst of transition, the head of civil service is doing assessment for his chief director. He's not worried about it, he's just doing his assessment for chief directors. But if you go to other places, the CEOs have gone. In some cases, the directors have gone. So all those confusion should rather encourage people that look, and for what the civil service is asking for, demanding or fighting for that permanence, that anonymity, that neutrality should be the bedrock of our public service. It's something that we should really come to think of it as an. And I think all the other organizations that are supposed to do something, the strategists of this world, the PSC, the Auditor General, all of them must come on board and support from their own perspective or where they stand in this business. Then we can get to a situation where people can effectively work, deliver. And then when you come to work, your only business will be that you come to serve. I believe sincerely that should be the key thing. There is that small matter of people coming in. You see, if you come in intrusion, personal assistant, you are technical assistant and all those. As long as you are not into mainline civil service work, it should not be a problem. Because if you look at other civil services, there, but British civil service, it's there. But you don't get into mainline civil service work. You don't encumber civil service position. Basically, that is where we at times also get, that's a nuanced side of the equation. And that is something that maybe we need to do. Well, we are hoping that under the draft civil service law, this problem will be solved by distinguishing clearly currently there are no rules. So at times it is blurred. Distinguishing clearly what these technical advisors and all that could do. They could focus on the political support for their ministers while they don't get across mainline civil service.
You see, when it comes to statistics, you know, they'll not come to you, Nana. I said they'll come to the association. This is where they will direct the complaints because of victimization. If I go and say they will victimize me. Even yesterday, every day you find people coming. Sometimes they come even in groups of 40 on each issue of interference. So it's really a problem.
Oh no, his question was whether
it could. I mean, you talking about the statistics. You said something about statistics.
He was talking about whether people were leaving. I'm not saying it does not happen.
Job attrition as a result of political institutions.
His question was specific in terms of.
What I'm saying, people are really complaining.
Oh yeah.
People are really complaining. People are petitioning.
But I think that should is another angle of question. That what advice or what do you perceive the civil service employee whose job is becomes challenged by virtue of this political influence? What can he do? Because, for instance, maybe you are head of public relations, they bring government spokesperson. Even though it is not a civil service post, the person is virtually doing your job. So you are there, you have no job to do. That also affects your psychic. So how would you advise your members to behave in such circumstances?
In such circumstances, what our members do, the first point of call is to call on the association. Because this is relating to their well-being. It's a fight. And it's an association that can fight for them. So all these reports come to that association. And we, as a body, with a bargaining certificate to champion the rights of our members, we take action. We've sometimes had to have meetings with which institutions is involved. You know, we're doing a lot of that with Nana, where there's a case, and then, in fact, most of the cases, Nana, we solve it amicably, and it doesn't even come out. But the dimension is taken now is dangerous. It's dangerous for this country, where you have a situation where clear rules and guidelines are being flouted with impunity. What can you do? You find somebody going to a civil institution and tells the people that I'll let you wear, now everybody should wear white and black to work in a civil service institution. And you find a politician, tell all of you come to work, wear white and black. No, there's something wrong. And the early we correct it, it's going to be a dangerous, very dangerous precedent we are setting for this country. And it's not all well for us. We all have the want Ghana to move to a developed country. And like Netanyahu said, it's the civil service that can move this country forward. Go to any country that has developed, look at their civil service. Strong. It's a strong institution. And that is what we wish, as close as we wish for this country, Ghana. We don't just go on strike for the sake of going on strike, because we think that it's at the last resort. We've spoken about it. We've done all we can, try to solve it amicably. If we are not getting results, that's when we are back on the strike action. You see, but the public must understand, we are not fighting for our interest, we are fighting for the public interest. And that's what they must know.
So Nana, among other things, you have mentioned the critical role that stakeholder institutions and bodies can play to either truncate this political intuition or reduce to the minimum. And you mentioned that of the PSC, the OACS, and what have you. From the Labour perspective, that's where I'm coming from. That perspective, what role do you think Closer can play, so that it doesn't seem as if they are always blowing the war of trumpet, like want to go on strike and that kind of thing? What can they do to ensure that we find ourselves in an enabling environment where each party will listen to one another and the rule of law would have its way in among other issues? Okay,
let me say this. In spite of often the antagonistic posture that people see Bampo as having, I had a really good time working with him. Let me make that. Because it's the principle of mutual respect. Mutual respect and for each other. It does not mean that we agree on everything, as I said. No. But mutual respect. And yes, the unions have got a very important role in ensuring that we have a very neutral civil service. We have a civil service that is proactive, that is performance-oriented, and all that. I remember there was one case where even the training of staff, on staff appraiser, which is a closer help the Office of Head of Service to fund the training many years ago. So I'm trying to say it's not just about chobo thing. They've been involved in helping us with training, providing support for training. Even the civil service awards thing, they help. So I'm saying we put everything together. It's the unions have a very important role in doing. There are things that unions can do that I cannot do. It has nothing to do with fear, but it has to do with a strategic position. Your job is always to try to bring peace, to bring harmony. And as I said, really about 80-85% of the issues never really came out. If all of them had come out, then virtually every other day, Closer would have gone on strike. 80-85, I'll say even 90% never came out. We'll discuss, I'll call, we'll have a conversation, we'll agree, he will come with a whole army, can intimidate me, it doesn't work, we'll discuss, and we are okay, you understand? So the first thing is, it is good for the union to be alive, and I will encourage them to continue to be alive. It's good for the union to want to make sure that their staff are safeguarded, but it's also better if the head of service or head of local government service work together with them to try to where it is obviously that the thing is bad, it is bad. And if it means at times you need to go and talk to political leaders, you do. Because at times they may be seen as antagonistic. But when you go with a paper well written and the analysis done properly, then we can mitigate some of these things. A removal of the word truncation of this political interference, I think is a mirage. It cannot happen. No. What we can do is to minimize it. Where you try to reduce that's what. You see, there are some of them that are maneuvers. So you can see that. But then some that are obvious. The obvious one is those ones that you can completely deal with it. But the others, you have to discuss. What would you do if a minister told you that I don't like Bampo? Why? He said, do you feel that Bampo is MPP or NDC? So no. Is it a performance matter? No. I don't want to be able to work with Bampo. Excuse me. Because his spirit and my spirit don't agree. Why is it in the public administration lecture notes, PhD level, master's level, why that is written? Yeah, what is real? I
like the practicalization of the issue.
It's not about the discussion. The guy says, I can't know because his spirit and my spirit don't. And I asked him, where is it written? You work with school Kakrafa. Where is that written that you do public administration based on spirit? Then you have to go and do deliverance. Then we'll all laugh. But that is a serious matter. So you see, this has nothing to do with the president. It's not party policy. It's just that your spirit and my spirit don't agree. So there are different shades of this intrusion. It's not just about appointments and promotions. You have all these things. That's why the unions at times must come up. And let me confess, there are things that when I feel is strong and you hate it, you don't want. Then you are happy. You won't come and tell them to do anything, but you're happy when they start making the noise. You sit down and then watch everything, and then you are relaxing. They are fighting your fight for you. So in that sense, it's good. Their focus is always on Ghana. That one I can say for sure.
So Nana, would you say that politically colorless civil service is a non-achievable situation?
Yeah, I think it's a mirage. The reason why I think it's a mirage, two sides, from both the civil service staff, people have got their political thinking. Staff, I'm talking about staff in particular. And it's not all of us who are wise enough, who understand what this anonymity thing does for us, what this permanent business clauses does for us, what this interactive thing does. So some of us will show our colors, some of us will lobby, some of us will do that. So that can create problems. And of course, you also have politicians. Some of the politicians, I always say this, the politicians who have succeeded very well in this country are those who listen to their civil service staff, are those who cooperated. We see a minister stay here, he died, and virtually everybody in the ministry was weeping. He had worked in 2 ministries. Everybody was weeping. We had a former minister died, and everybody in those 2 ministries was sad that this man died. And we see ministers who have also left, been booted out, and the next day everybody is why? Is it that the people are not performing? No, it's a relationship. And I will encourage, like the last time I said that, His Excellency the President, to encourage or tell his people, his minister, that look, listen to the civil service staff. Listen to them. People have got advice. Listen to them. You are not a robot, that's not bad. But listen to where they are technically sound. Take it. Don't go into the office thinking that you know or you don't know. There are nuances that if somebody wants to bring you down, they will bring you down easily. But when you cooperate and you respect, mutual respect, that's also to the ministers. Some of them small things, though, they think they are who they are. Beyond them, there is nobody. I am that I am. So I think the ministers must also look at this carefully, because they are the people who really create the problem. You have your personal assistant, you have your technical assistant. You know the rules are that they should not get involved in mainline. So why would you let him sign a memo? Why would you let him sign a letter to the ministry or to other? No, it is wrong. It's unacceptable. Why have a chief director? Why would you call a meeting of directors and then leave out the chief directors? It is wrong. It's absolutely improper. So most of these problems are created at that level. At that level. I mean, there was a case I heard a minister going as far as being involved in the allocation of cars or allocation of drivers. For heaven's sake, there's a director of administration, there's a chief driver, there's a TO. Why do you get yourself involved? You must remain strategic. You must remain strategic and do the things properly. So you see, when you talk of intrusion, the nuances are at various levels. And I pray that His Excellency will call some of these people to order, and also the Chief of Staff. I pray that when the head of CSS comes and he has an issue, you will help him. I was fortunate. All the Chief of Staffs were generally very good guys. When you have a conversation, they take it up and they do. So in terms of real challenges, and also, I did spend a lot of time praying. When you are a trouble minister, I pray a lot to you, and the next day they repent.
So Doc, don't you think that possibly also one of the cure could reside in the kind of orientation these ministers are given before they assume office? Because it's like, yes, he's a politically exposed person. His mindset, his life is about politics. He gets into which is another political arena. It's like you send a boxer into a playing field and he thinks it's boxing. Don't you think it's an orientation that they need, or maybe there's no adequacy of it?
Maybe no adequate orientation. But the issue is this. It's a privilege to be an appointee. It's not a right. It's not a right at all. It's a privilege. So once you come into the system, you must work according to the rules and regulations of the system. You cannot come and say that, for me, I will not work with you, or I don't want this. No. It's a privilege. It's just a matter of abuse of power. And they must be told. It's a privilege. It's not by force. If you want to go there, you are appointed as a minister, you go to Ministry of Finance, and you think you can't do it, then get out. They must be told. You see, but once we entertain them, we say, oh, this minister has come. He has cleared all the Secretariat of Civil Servants. Has brought his personal assistants. We forget that who is going to bear the grant? It's the country that's going to suffer. Because let me tell you, those 4 years that he is there, all the institutional members lost.
Records,
no.
Taken away.
We have situations where we as CLOSAC, we have to give certain documentations to the ministry. Because they came to those meetings with PAs, special assistants, and they've gone. They don't have records, they didn't keep records. They could go to workshops, they go to this, they don't, no report. And the bottom line is Ghana that is going to suffer. And that's the situation. It's a privilege, it's not a right. They must be told. It's a privilege. You must thank God that you'll be privileged to be a minister for finance, and then when you come, you think you can bring your own people. No. If you know you cannot work with people who have got the capacity, who have got the training in these issues, then don't avail yourself to be a minister. It's a privilege, and they must be told.
So the bit about orientation, let me say that they do. You look at all those things, procurement laws, the PFM Act, and all those, all these things are there. Heads of services, heads of local government services, PSC, involved in that thing. You see, at times people are also involved in one of these, and one of the trainings some years. The reason I'm talking about that was so amazing. I was in management services. Then I think as a principal management. So I was the head of civil service then. And he was talking and explaining things and that kind of thing. And somehow, somebody said, in other words, all that the person was trying to say, I didn't know. So it comes back to my old thing that those who listen, they deliver, they are at peace, they don't have wahala. Those who don't listen are the ones who are. All these things about contracts and this, they are chief directors there. They know the procurement laws. They know what will land you in trouble. They know what you do that if you sign, there's an internal audit people. I said also, I'll not say anything if the internal audit people don't say go. No matter what you do, I won't sign. So part of the problem is not necessarily the lack of orientation. It's the willingness to
be orientated.
I happen to have been in a meeting, one of our presidents, and after we've explained everything, the president himself got up and said, "Thank you, Mr. Head of Civil Service. This particular orientation has clarified a lot of things." So the willingness to listen.
Okay. So Doc, it is said that human beings are political animals. And we cannot pretend that in the civil service, there are no civil service staff who are not politically aligned. And in any case, you went to court not to enforce NAP, that's neutrality, anonymity, and permanency. You went to court so that civil servants are allowed to possibly
express their political
aspirations or leanings
on the basis of
Now we have an opportunity where there's a team that is going around. Don't you think you need to revisit this issue, and so that civil servants will be allowed to do politics, then we can all be free?
Like I said, yeah, there's a constitutional review going on, but we went to court, and it was 7-0. That made it very clear to us that we cannot go that line. Because when you even go into history, since 1948, at the time of independence, Gold Coast time, colonial times, even this law was there that when we started having political parties, the CPP, they put it in the general orders that if you want to be a member of the parties that have been formed, you cannot be a civil servant. So it's an issue for us. We have accepted the explanation and then the spirit behind the framers, what the framers of the Constitution meant when they said, don't meddle in politics. The problem now is for those politicians to understand it to be so. We think court interpretation was best. If we want our country to develop, this is the line that we should go. We accept it. But it's for the other side to accept it and respect the Supreme Court ruling.
Thank you. So the stand is that because you were whipped 7-0, you want to stand by it.
Yeah.
And so what mechanism are you going to put in place, being the Executive Secretary of CLOSAG, to get your members to understand the principles of neutrality, anonymity, and permanence, so that they can remain absolutely neutral and deliver as required of them by the civil service?
Yeah, as an association, we came up with this neutrality project where we have annual lectures sensitizing our members the need for them to be neutral when it comes to the civil service. And I can tell you, it's been very interesting. There have been situations where people have come and told us that, look, this is a good program. Yes. Replicate it in all the regions.
It's a good program.
It's a very that, because for lack of funds, we've not been able to go back. At every opportunity that we get, we make sure we tell them, look, when it comes to the civil service, we don't do partisan politics, we don't do, and that should be, even if you are a member, and we find out, we've had to report some of our own members. This our member is doing politics, dismiss him. We've done that. Because we believe that this is the direction that we need to go if we want to develop this country.
Well, Doc, I'm surprised that you forgot to mention one critical tool you are using to sensitize your members. That's Club TV and resetting the civil service.
Course, yes.
And that's what we are doing now. Civil servants will remain politically neutral. But Nana, with your vast experience in the civil service, I'm sure if the civil service is an academic institution, we could call you a professor of the civil service. What kind of collaboration can you do with civil service to enhance this kind of neutrality project?
We are in office. We supported them, and basically, while in office, we supported active in terms of the things that they were supposed to do, participated in the meetings, in the workshops, everything that they raised, we try to do, and I think we'll continue to that even now. When I was invited to come here from my holy village, I've come, and anything that is necessary. But we our own at our various meetings or platforms that we have tried to drill into people the need for us to remain non-partisan, to remain neutral. You see, one of the biggest things that can happen and that's my advice to all the civil service staff, is that when you are politically neutral, when you are efficient and effective in your performance, you have this sense of confidence, even maybe at times to the level of what people say pride, arrogance, because you are definite in your thinking that you are doing it for God and country. For you, that is a key thing. So we continue to participate in any of the activities that CLOSAC wants to do to invite us will be there. Any work that the civil service wants to do and invited us will be there. And we will also continue to use our own platforms to continue to do the best so that ourselves remain neutral. We will engage with our opposition politicians also so that some of them will come to a better understanding of why it is necessary not to intrude unnecessarily. Work, collaborate, give direction, but don't intrude into normal, routine civil service. That, for me, was a recipe for disaster for our country.
So looking at, because you see, the problem, it's as if there's a problem in trying to enforce NAP, either from the political perspective or the civil service perspective. Do you think that there's the need for the Constitution as it is to be reviewed to align with the political caricature of our nation so that we can create a balance?
I don't. You see, I think NAP basically is more of an attitude than anything. Okay. You cannot legislate NAP. You can't. It's an attitudinal thing. In some cases, it's a learning thing. It's trying to understand and trying to be flexible in our approach. So the moment you start legislating everything, we are getting into trouble. So that will not be my approach. I don't see. There are a few things, of course, that you can do is, can we review the powers of the president in terms of the appointments so that other organizations get involved a bit more and stuff like that. So those are things that can be done. Can we also ensure that, as CLOSAC has been doing, where a civil service staff or local government staff is seen to have been involved directly, these punitive measures are taken and then publicized, because it is important. And also, we should also encourage ourselves to be very confident and be happy that we are in this office of staff of civil service serving Ghana in a unique way. I've always said, and this may be my concluding remark, that if there's a politician in this country who says that they were successful, they did this, they served this, and they served that, then my friends who are in the civil service now, you can also say confidently that you too have contributed to a large extent, because the politician could not have been successful without the civil service staff.
Well, thank you. So, Doc, can I have your concluding statements?
Yeah, what I would say,
and if you could, in your summary, also give a message to your members.
You see, what I would say is that it starts and ends with the Public Service Commission. When you look at 197 of the Constitution, it enjoys the Public Services Commission. The Public Services Commission may, subject to the approval of the President, make regulations by constitutional instruments for the effective and efficient performance of its functions under this Constitution. We've had this Constitution for how many years? We don't have this constitutional instrument. And that would have clarified all these things. So that is a problem. Public Services Commissions must get its act together. They are creating a confusion. It tells them there should be a constitutional instrument, and that will have regulated all these things. But these things are not in place. What I want to tell our members is that You know, we cannot be everywhere. Anytime issues relating to political interference, they should let us know. And we're there to do our best for them. Thank you.
It is said that an effective civil service is essential to modern day democratic society, and a measure of is necessary in order to preserve the effectiveness. It is therefore the perfection of the civil service that will move this nation forward. And that's how we draw the curtains down on today's episode of Researching the Civil Service. Let me say a very big, gargantuan thank you to Nana Kwesi Ejokum Jamina. It's a mouthful name. The name is like the body itself. The immediate past head of civil service, I'll call him the civil service scholar, has been very supportive in this agenda in trying to help us understand the civil service culture and structure as far as the NAP is concerned. Sir, thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Also, let me thank Executive Secretary Dr. Bampoado for leaving his business and being here with us. And we like the fighting spirit in you. You don't give up. You are relentless.
By His grace.
And you should try to support the course that you have taken, so long as you are convinced that that's the right path. We pray that the good Lord God would continue to give you the strength to be able to champion this cause on behalf of the entirety of the civil service of Ghana. Then to my cherished viewers, I say thank you very much for having us in your homes, and I urge you to continue to stay tuned. We shall be present in your home again. To the crew of Clock TV, my producer, and all members and staff of CLOSAC, I say thank you very much for the wonderful support you give for this production. Until we meet again, this is your host, Cephas Dosu, bringing to your homes Researching the Civil Service. Thank you, and God bless you.
Clog TV, Beyond the Policy.